Good evening. Welcome to the September 3rd, 2024 meeting of the Greensboro City Council. We are in the Katie Dorset Council Chamber. Let the record reflect that all members are in attendance. Mayor Pro Tem stepped out for a moment. Let's begin tonight's meeting with a moment of silence. Thank you. Mrs. Boozawaiter, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. City Manager, would you please introduce our courier?
We actually do not have one
We do
tonight.
not have one. Okay.
Sorry.
Well, our next meeting, you can introduce them. The City Council of the City of Greensboro encourages resident input. Public participation is of the utmost importance to the City Council. It is the goal of the City Council that the Katie Dorset Council Chamber is a welcoming space and that residents feel empowered to bring issues of concern before their elected official. Individuals may sign up to speak to a specific consent or business agenda item. The subject will be noted, and if it requires action or requests, the city clerk and/or the city manager will notice such and provide steps for any after action. The order in which speakers are called is at the discretion of the mayor or the presiding officer. Speakers must be signed up by 6 p.m. and will be allotted 3 minutes each, and may not relinquish any remaining time to another speaker, and may speak once during the public comment period. The mayor or presiding officer may, at their discretion, increase or decrease this time allocation. Speakers shall be civil and courteous in their language and presentation. Insults, profanity, use of vulgar language or gestures or other inappropriate behaviors are not allowed. Speakers are to address council during the public comment period. Speakers shall not address or respond to members of the audience. All speaker handouts should have already been provided to the city clerk or courier to be distributed to council. Residents are not allowed to approach the council dais unless they are invited to do so. The City of Greensboro is committed to promoting an environment that is free of discrimination, bias, and bullying. Therefore, speakers shall refrain from personal attacks. The mayor or presiding officer has the authority to interpret and enforce the rules of decorum. In order to maintain a safe space for all speakers, members of the audience or speakers from the podium who intentionally disrupt the meeting, engage in egregious or repeated violations, or ridicule other speakers will be given a warning, and if unheeded, they will be removed from the meeting. That person will be suspended from in-person participation for 3 months. In order to preserve their right to free speech, they can attend virtually by Zoom, by phone, or may submit a comment by email. All electronic devices should be turned off or to the silent mode. If you must make or receive a phone call, kindly do so from outside the chamber. By statute, council members must vote on all items unless there is a direct financial interest or if they sit on a board of a nonprofit receiving funding from the city. All votes will be moved and seconded. The mayor will announce the vote total. We do have a consent agenda for items G1 through G12, which are a grouping of agenda items that are voted on with one single vote to expedite what are believed to be routine and non-controversial items. Any council member may withdraw an item from the consent agenda due to a conflict of interest or for the purpose of voting no. Items removed from the consent agenda for discussion will be placed on the September City Council business meeting. This meeting does include closed captioning. Depending on the length of tonight's meeting, we may take a short recess around 7:30. This is the time for our ceremonial and presentation items. We do have one, item E1, a presentation on Greensboro site visits by David Kraft. David?
You know, I always wanted to be courier.
Well, you can
Maybe
fill
another
in.
time.
I don't know if you'll hit the youth part, but you could be the courier.
My name is David Kraft. I live at 807 Simpson Street in Greensboro. I've lived here my whole life. I've interacted with most, if not all of you, and I want to say I appreciate what you do. It is not easy, and we are very thankful that we have such a good city council. My daughter lives in Pittsburgh, and by happenstance, I figured out about an hour south, there's a town called Greensboro. And I said, well, gosh, I should go stop in Greensboro. And then I did a little more research, and I found more Greensboros. And then I said, well, gosh, I should go to all these Greensboros, which I found stretch from Vermont down to Florida and over to Indiana. So I'm going to get there, and I've done 3 this year. And you have a mug. Mr. Wilson, you have one, and I'll get you more. You let me know how many other really serious Greensboro lovers there are in your office and the other offices, and I'll get you a few more. So got a few slides here, but I'll point out that there are Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Indiana, Maryland, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Vermont. And all but 2 of them are named after General Greene. One of them, interestingly, is named after Greensboro and not General Greene. Seth Henshaw, the famous Quaker abolitionist, moved up to southern Indiana or eastern Indiana, east of Indianapolis, and a little town called Greensboro popped up. So I'll just go through the slides. This is a visit to Greensboro, Maryland, which in 1791 became Greensboro, Maryland. Prior to that, it was called Bridgetown, because it was the first place that you could build a bridge across the Choptank River. Got to love some of the names that happen up there. And the mayor is, let's see, the mayor is on the left, a fellow named Tom, and then a couple folks with the historical committee, and the fellow on the right, I think, was walking down the street, and we just started talking, and he came in. So they have a nice little museum. Really pretty little town hall sign. There we go. This is the historical marker at where the bridge is. It's a much newer bridge now. And when I asked them over the phone, sort of planning the visit, I said, are you named after Greensboro or General Greene? And they said, well, we don't really know. So I'm not sure they still know, but I'm thinking 1791, it must be General Greene. Let's see. Here's Michael Nepley, the town administrator of Greensboro, Indiana, and had a nice visit with him right after the eclipse. The eclipse came right over, and I decided, well, I'm going to go see the solar eclipse. Let's see. There's the underground station in Greensboro, Indiana. It mentions Seth Henshaw. He's somebody you ought to look up. Greensboro, Pennsylvania, on the Monongahela River. They just refer to it as the Mon. Nobody tries to say Monongahela. It is a cute, wonderful little town, probably the nicest of the 3. But when the river became less important and the railroads came and then the highways came, it didn't get the railroad or the highways. So it's 200 people. All these places are several hundred or maybe up to a couple thousand people. Nothing is remotely the size of our Greensboro.
And they have a river.
They have a river.
They have a river.
We are hoping for a river. Mr. Matheny is working on a river for downtown, I hear.
Yes. So they have a river, and they only have 200 people.
And they only
so
have
we're
200
fine.
people.
Yeah.
But and it's next to another town called Glassworks. I guess they couldn't agree on merging. They made a lot of glass there. They made a lot of pottery in Greensboro, PA. This is Lisa, who runs the diner, because the mayor was at his real job. Had a nice visit with her. Let's see, and we're back to Maryland. So that was my little tour. It was a lot of fun. The Southern campaign is next, and if you follow the history of General Greene, he started his battles and skirmishes in South Carolina and came up through here against Cornwallis, and they referred to those as the Southern Campaign. So I will undertake the Southern Campaign, and I have a friend who grew up in North Florida who said, well, I grew up 10 minutes from Greensboro. Why don't we just go on a road trip? So now I've got a buddy that we're going to go to Greensboro, Florida, Alabama, and Georgia. Greensboro, Vermont is almost in Canada. It sits on a pretty lake, and I think that's going to be a vacation. So I'll let you know about that one. I hope you enjoy your mugs, and thank you for your time.
Well, and I hope you'll come back when you
Yeah, I
do the
will be
Southern
back with
Campaign
you. Yeah.
and share it with us. That's very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, David, thank you very much and for the cup. And I'm just curious about something when you go to these places. I'm from a little town in Kentucky called Middlesboro, but it used to have the O-R-O-U-G-H at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing with Greensboro. Do you know if any of the Greensboro towns had that until they shortened it to the O-R-O?
That's a good question. I would think they
Curious, I'm
probably
curious.
did. You know, maybe the History Museum could do a little mini exhibit on the other Greensboros. I'd be happy to provide some
Yeah, if you can find out in your
information to them.
travels, just
Yeah,
get back with me.
yeah.
I see you every couple of weeks.
Oh,
at
I know.
Kiwanis.
We'll find you. Okay. All right. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Let's see. Now is the time for speakers from the floor on non-agenda items. This is an opportunity to hear from anyone wishing to speak. Generally, this is a time of listening for counsel. Let's see. Our first three speakers are Kevin Tutterow, Nadine Malpass, and Samantha Vaughn. And I know they're going to talk about the United Way, and there was a really nice United Way event last week over at the Coliseum to encourage our workers to contribute to the United Way, and it was from 10 to 2, and they got to meet lots of vendors and have a really good lunch. So,
Thank you for sharing it.
thank you. So, however, whatever order you would like to come in.
Good afternoon, Mayor Vaughn, Madam Pro Tem Johnson, and City Council. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you today. I'm wearing two hats today, one as a community member and the second as an employee of the United Way. We are so fortunate to have this partnership with the city and their employees. Through my United Way work and participating in Greensboro City Academy, I have met many dedicated, hardworking city employees who are passionate in their jobs while exhibiting kindness and compassion while they serve our community. One of my fellow participants in City Academy was a mother of a police officer. She shared that her daughter, in the course of protecting our communities, also carried in the back of her squad card many items like water for residents on hot days, balls for children that might be playing with deflated ones, socks and blankets for cold weather that she routinely gave out to community members she served. Her mother went on to explain that it was her family and friends that purchased these items for her daughter. She is one of many employees that do this through the police, fire, EMS, and city departments. To assist these efforts, the United Way is hosting a community-wide first responders drive during the month of September. You will hear more of this drive from my coworker, Samuel. But let me say one thing. Thank you for everything that you've done in the past, what you're doing today, and what you'll do in the future for making our community better. And please check your calendars, because you've all been invited to our annual kickoff on Friday, September 13th at the Coliseum at the Terraces. Thank you.
So Sam, not Samantha.
Yes.
I'm not sure how they.
You can call me anything, though.
Thank you.
So Nadine has shared a little bit about the need that she's seen. Oh, thank you. firsthand, not a fabricated need, but one that she saw police officers already purchasing items to support something like that. I want to share a little bit about our response to that need in detail. So September 1st through 30th, so we've already begun to receive items. It's really exciting to see them pour into United Way's office. We will be hosting a community-wide drive. The drive is to collect items that first responders may then use to give to community members experiencing hardship, homelessness, or who are experiencing difficult moments. And these items will be supplied along with information on 211. Who here knows what 211 is? Just a raise of hands. Okay, we have a few, but 211 is a hotline that you may dial that will connect you to support services locally. So you'll see here in your packets provided just a card on 211 that we can hand out. You'll also see a one-pager that shares how to get involved in the drive, as well as a description and the reasons why we are doing this drive. You will see a flyer. While the Amazon wish list, you can send items directly to United Way. Some people like to gather all the items at their workplace, place of worship, or civic group and measure exactly how many items they collected. So you could also have the items shipped to your place and be able to see how many you collected. Here are pictures of some of the items being requested. We've worked with police, fire, and EMS departments to ask them, what do you need? And they communicated hygiene kits, socks, blankets, stuffed animals, and toys that they can provide to community members. And lastly, here's just a one-pager, on 211. So there are many reasons to support this drive. But personally, a reason I'm so invested is because my childhood good friend is EMS Captain Kevin Tutterow. He has over 50 saves. He's been recognized that for EMS earlier this year. And we wanted to invite him to share about the need he sees for this drive. So please welcome Captain Tutterow.
And after Captain Tutterow, Carol Carter, Hester Petty, and Samantha Stewart, if you'd come to the window side of the room.
Good afternoon, all. Just like Samuel was saying, I've had a lot of experience kind of in this type of field, and just kind of want to give a testament from the EMS public safety side as to how this will help just kind of overall. So why kind of support this drive? Well, you see a lot of people experiencing hardship. We also see that as well. So, giving people socks, toys, those little comfort items, you don't know how much that'll mean to someone in a time of need. There's a lot of underlying issues that kind of roll into the types of emergencies we respond to and issues that we see, whether it be poverty, homelessness, substance abuse, anything like that. There's a multitude of issues that need to be addressed through that. And, this kind of first responder or the drive can kind of assist with that. It also helps us as first responders. Some of the hardest calls we run are not the high profile ones. It's the ones where we can do nothing. And so by having this, we now have the ability to do something on those calls where we have nothing to do. And so, one of my friends gave a good quote that, we're responsible for fixing, a lifetime of poor decisions in 10 minutes. So take 10 minutes of your time and help us support the lifetime of those decisions. So thank you all for your time.
Thank you, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Hi. 6 inches down. Good evening, Council. My name is Carol Carter, 5505 Hempstead Drive, Greensboro 27410. And I'm here this evening representing my neighborhood, Friendly Lakes, off of Fleming Road. We had significant damage during and after Hurricane Debbie, and in fact have been determined to be one of the hardest hit in Guilford County. We're still waiting to find out if Guilford County will be designated emergency. I'm here tonight on behalf of my neighborhood to thank our councilwoman, Tammy Thurm, for coming and riding through our neighborhood to see the damage the day after Hurricane Debbie, and we appreciate her time. Also like to thank Mike Borchers, Virginia Spillman, and several other staff members of the Water Resources for visiting the second day and looking at all the damage, talking to our neighbors, giving us ideas for grants or other financial means to repair. We had at least 6 homes that had to be have water rescues performed by the Greensboro Police Department, the Greensboro Fire Department, and the Guilford County Department of Emergency Management. There was up to 4 feet of water in all of those homes. They were built some time ago in 1992 in the flood zone. And I wanted to thank each of those agencies for coming and with their boats, getting people, doggies, and kitties out of homes and saving them. So now we have a minimum of 6 displaced residents. We're working together as a neighborhood to repair and help displaced families. We're also a very small neighborhood, and we have to repair the damaged streams and the spillway that collapsed during in our 9-acre lake during the hurricane. We're small, and we are a nonprofit, and we'll be seeking funding assistance to rebuild and repair for housing as well as for the lake. I'd like to thank again Mike Borchers and Stormwater Management. They've already been out there and have done a ton of work to reinforce clean and reinforce the stream banks. They've also reinforced small ponds that drain into our lake. And the workers have been there. I've stopped every day and said, hey, I'm a former city employee. I thank you for what you do. Do you need water? Do you need meals? And everybody has been just wonderful, and we appreciate that. We're hurting right now. I have spoken. We will be looking for support from you in the future and look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
But thank you so much to all of your employees. They're
And thank
great.
you for advocating for your neighborhood so strongly.
Mr. Manager, does the state designate neighborhoods as disaster areas when there are storms and it's a particular neighborhood?
Not to my knowledge, but I
Okay.
would need to research
All right,
that further.
thank you.
Well, and we have to declare a state of emergency. The county has to declare a state of emergency, and unfortunately, it didn't rise to that level this time because it was really in one specific area, and it was not citywide. So, we would not qualify for a claim at this point.
Good evening. My name is Hester Petty. I understand that the city can intervene when a yard or outside of a house is in disrepair or hazardous or vacant, or when the house isn't habitable for renters. But you're using a new state law, and you took Ronald Phelps' home away from him, rendering him homeless. The initial complaint, as best as I can tell from the city's case overview, was, please check this property for probable cause. Porch is full of things and you can't see into the house. Possible hoarding case. Neighbors are concerned. The house is now in receivership, and the company in charge, Metamorph Investments, LLC, states in their assessment that they recommend that the entire interior of the home be completely renovated with new walls, ceilings, and electrical wiring, and a full kitchen and bath remodel, all to the tune of $230,000 in repairs, while the company plans to recoup within 2 years of rental money from UNCG students. Yeah, ain't gonna happen. There's no way Metamorph can be reimbursed $230,000 in 2 years, and because of that, the final bill will be handed to the homeowner who's homeless. And since he didn't have the kind of cash in the first place, the house will probably become the property of somebody else. I'm not sure who actually will take the house. Is it the city? Is it Metamorph? I don't know. To carry what was an eyesore issue to the point of putting his house into receivership is downright frightening. And this is just one case we are aware of. Just how broadly will the city go using this law against homeowners who are living in their own houses? Please put a stop to this legal theft. Rescind the receivership. Pay Metamorph investments for any work they've done. Return Mr. Fulp's house to him. There are people in Greensboro who have already offered time and materials to help him do the necessary, and I mean necessary, not an entire home renovation, to his home without charge. On a personal note, a few years back, I heard that a code inspector had visited my neighborhood, and he had suggested to another code inspector that he report on a couple of houses, including mine. I looked up, he mentioned that I suspect it was the untidy front lawn that probably attracted his attention. One of the things he mentioned was that my house numbers weren't up to code. I looked up the code. The numbers were tall enough.
Your what wasn't up to code?
The one that you put on your house, like 3402? Yeah. My numbers were tall enough, according to the code, but apparently there was not enough contrast between the color of the house and the color of the numbers. As for the inside of my house, that's none of your damn business.
So, Mayor,
The next speaker is on the same topic as well.
okay, because I support the receivership program, and I'd like to hear from, I think, Mr. Davis, who can address some of that.
Can we have the
Yeah.
speaker? And then after Ms. Stewart, we've got Crystal Black, Cheryl McIver, and Britt Tanis.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Council, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem. Good evening. My name is Samantha Stewart, and I'm a historic preservation consultant that lives on Tate Street in College Hill. I already emailed Councilmember Hoffman and Mayor Nancy Vaughn about the receivership program and the impact it's having on my neighbor at 316 Tate Street. That was on August 22nd, and I received a very speedy reply from Mayor Vaughn. Thank you for that. Connecting me to Troy Powell with Housing and Neighborhood Development. And since my email, Mr. Powell has provided me and other concerned neighbors with detailed information about the program, including an in-person site visit just this afternoon, where we also met with preservation planner Stephen Lee Geary, members of the neighborhood, the receiver, and representatives from Preservation Greensboro. So I want to thank Mr. Powell for meeting with us today and responding to our questions and concerns. I personally can see the potential for major benefits to College Hill and other Greensboro neighborhoods with naturally occurring affordable housing if this program was enacted on vacant or substandard housing owned by someone as an investment. In that case, no one is removed from accessing their own home. The receiver and property owner both make their money back and move on, and we're left behind with a safe, compliant, and affordable housing resource for the community. However, unlike your typical absentee property owner, and we have many of those in College Hill who own multiple properties, let them fall into disrepair, and then leave them vacant or rent them as substandard, 316 Tate Street is actually owned by my neighbor as his primary and only residence. And his house has been out of compliance since 2018 for a long list of violations, but they're somewhat minor, and they are mostly on the inside of the house. And this was while he was dealing with a serious and prolonged illness. I cannot speak to the interior of the home at this time, but I did visit it this evening. I saw the exterior of the house and the site, and it's my professional opinion as a preservation consultant who works very often with historic properties that the exterior of the home is in fine condition, and I personally would not consider it to be a blighted property at this time. So here's my request. Would it be possible to protect homeowners who own only one home as their primary residence from the receivership program? I've heard several times that my neighbor is technically not being evicted from his home because the house was condemned previously and should not have been occupied, but to me, that sounds a little bit like we're arguing over semantics. Here are the facts. My neighbor is now officially homeless. He has no access to his home and no power to make any changes to it, to sell it, to take out a loan on it, etc. Yet it appears to organizations like SNAP that he has access to this valuable asset and therefore does not qualify for benefits or other assistance. I see the potential of the receivership program to be used as a tool to convert vacant and substandard housing into usable, affordable housing, but I am concerned about how it is playing out for the first time in my neighborhood, and I would like to see homeowners like my neighbor protected in the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I don't know if somebody wants to. Sharon? You know, I'm not aware of the receivership program being used on a home where somebody was currently living. I don't know if we could have maybe a brief comment just for the public, and then if you could follow up with us in greater detail. I know that we do have a number of documents, I think, up in our folder.
Yeah.
But
generally the program is for vacant and abandoned homes. So this one obviously is in pretty disrepair. And one of the benefits of the receivership program is that we get people to fix them up. So, I mean, we've only had maybe 1 or 2 homes go into receivership.
yeah, I was
It's
just
not been many. We have,
I think those were vacant.
yeah, but it's not been many. They've been fixed before they go there.
Mr. Powell?
Maybe Mr. Powell can tell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, so while being in the receivership program, we have achieved compliance with about 50 homes that have been repaired to avoid going to the court. And right now we've got 2 active cases that have been issued an order by the court with assigning a receiver. One is 316 Tate Street and the other one is 1604 Tucker Street. Just real briefly about the program, it's the house itself, a property has to be vacant and an ordinance issued by the Greensboro Minimum Housing Commission. So by the time the case generally gets to the point of receivership being required, the property has already been condemned and has already been vacant for approximately a year or more at a time. In a particular case that I can answer a question to, but generally the receivership program itself just simply allows the Superior Court judge to issue a receiver that is qualified by the statute to make the repairs, and they can attach any of the liens that's allowed by the statute to that property, and allowed to put a tenant in it for 2 years after they rehabilitate the property to gain compliance.
Thank you. And I know that we have some information in our folders, and we'll probably follow up with additional questions. Thank you. Crystal Black, followed by Cheryl McIver and Brett Tanis.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. We're here on a positive note again, so we wanted to continue the momentum and just share some of the forward movement that we've had in Southeast Greensboro with some of the requests that we've been making. It's been a 4-year journey, so we want to make sure that we also show up when things are moving forward. We were happy to see, and I shared with the city manager's office, that Nextdoor had a growing feed about appreciating the calm spirit that's at the Food Lion now. They are sharing, they're very thankful for the action that is taken, and I shared those screenshots because it warmed our heart to know that some of the advocacy that we do is really being received well within the community. And I just wanted to also uplift your police department, your code department, your parking, all of the people who have teamed up in a collaborative effort to kind of address some of the issues along the Randleman Road corridor. We kind of had a meeting, came up with a strategic plan on how to tackle some things that we know already exist as some concerns, and how can we address those right now and have some easy wins. And so we're having some easy wins. And so I just wanted to show up to say thank you to more so your staff, but to let you know how hard your staff is working in Southeast Greensboro on some of the concerns we've had. So I thank the city manager's office again. I know y'all love my emails when they come across, but I do know that you're hearing me, so I want to show my appreciation by showing up on a positive note today. So thank you.
Hi, everyone, Madam Mayor, Council. I'm just here to second what Crystal has mentioned. Oftentimes, we're here trying to, get things done, and sometimes that has hard conversations and harsh conversations. But I will say in this instance, in particular with the food line incident, the city showed up. Your departments showed up. The owner did finally show up. And the comments, if you go on next door and put in Food Lion, the comments are wonderful. Of course, not everyone appreciates possibly being towed, but to hear the neighbors talk about how calm it is and how they are now revisiting and going back, and I didn't realize they implemented all that. I'll go start shopping there again. It's really meaningful for us, and I almost get tears in my eyes just thinking about it because it's been a long journey. And again, thank you to all your departments. Thank you to the city manager's office for the updates on the Random Road corridor. I can't see us going anywhere but up. There is still work to be done, but we appreciate the collaboration amongst all the departments. So thank you all.
Thank you. After Mr. Tanis, we have Malik Hugh, Toad of the Mountain, and Philip Marsh.
Hello, folks. My name is Brett Tanis. I guess I'm still new, but 6 months here in Greensboro in the county. It was back in '89 where our college team, my alma mater, Siena College, was playing in the basketball tournament here, and we won first round, and that was really exciting for us, I'll tell you. But that's not what I'm here to. That's just my initial introduction here. Roundabout way is the what I just learned in the past day or so is the receivership program, and if I'm part of that, and my circumstances that bring me here now, it's kind of like a refugee situation, which was in the park as well, and a lot of that information I absorbed and processed as far as having a lesser element on a college campus as far as academic and scholarly achievements that you would expect. It's very complicated and yet simple. They try to strike a balance. I was part of student government and all different aspects of college life there. I was not necessarily an academic scholar at the collegiate level at all, but I had my grades all over. And the long and short of it is I knew everybody on campus. We were celebrating a 50th anniversary, and I'm not sure. The mix is tough sometimes, and education is very important. I know that's always been the case here in the South, and when it boils right down to the complexities in making a decision, you have a fork in a road, and it doesn't matter if you're driving, you have to go left or right, or true or false, or whenever you're solving a problem. It boils down to two. If you have any more than that, it gets more complicated to figure, but you can make a decision on the items here. But homelessness and my situation is very difficult to get started again in order to move on and get situated, get back in a career. I would love to apply myself to the local community and everything, stay here and be a productive citizen. I out of time here, and that was one of the things I wanted to say. Time and money is a very important balance. And with that, I thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, City Council. I'm back again. This is for my homeless community, and I just want to know, there's some questions that I have brought up in front of everybody. is how fast can we get housing? Can we feed in the park? Can y'all help me get beauty in the streets? And some other things. And so on to helping the homeless, on to getting more food for the homeless, more safe places downtown. Can we faster the police for downtown for people that's getting beat up like me, that I have been getting beat up downtown in Greensboro? And for the IRC, and how fast we can get the water fixed down there at the IRC. Because there's been a lot of stories that I've been hearing. No showers, no working toilets, no none of that. I've been hearing a lot from my IRC members, and my members have been coming to me, talking to me, and I've been like that. And all those questions that I had just asked is we need answers, and we want answers faster to see if y'all can help us get answers faster for that. And that's for some of y'all, if y'all can think of them, if y'all can get back to us, because we want answers, because the homeless members are looking at this. We don't have much showers working at the IRC. They don't got much toilets running. They got sinks is broke down there. We need faster response on that to see if we can get it fixed down there. Because that's what I've been looking at. I've been going through, I've been listening to a lot of my members down there at the city, at the IRC. And they looking like, well, how fast can we do this, or what we need? We need these answers faster. And housing, we definitely need it, because my community is getting to the point where we are like just falling apart. And I feel like we need answers to get in housing, and how fast can we move into the new apartments on Yanceyville Street? How fast can we move in to apartments on Cone? How fast can we do this, do that? What we need to do, step-by-step methods, because people out here, we don't want to lose no more than we have for our own community. There's too many of my homeless members that have died out here, and I've been looking at a lot of us. I've been looking at a lot of statistics and a lot of answers. And I really feel like we need more people to help us feed out there in downtown. We want us to continue getting feeding at the parks. We want us to, instead of having to move it other places, we want them to come downtown and feel like, oh, they can feed down there, or they can help us. We need them to bring out more food, so that way, like me, I want to go out there and help my community, but I just look back and I'm like, I'm going to hold off and not bring it yet. But I want to bring out more food. I want to bring beauty to the streets. I want to bring something so that my people can feel like they got beauty back, so that downtown Greensboro can be the safer areas. Safe places, libraries, more different places that we can put up the safety signs, so that way people can have a place to go to when they feel like they're going through hooding spots. And I feel like y'all need to look into that, because it's too many times that I got beat up downtown. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, just a quick question for city staff. Are we aware of any situations at the IRC with no restrooms and no water?
There's no showers in the men's because they're remodeling.
Sorry, but the question wasn't directed at you.
I was not, but I made a note while the speaker was talking, and we will look into it.
Thank you.
I would hope if there's no water, it wouldn't be operating.
There's only one working.
So if we could find that out,
So it sounds like there may be water, but there may not be water everywhere there needs to be water.
well, Goldie was down there Sunday morning, there was the water. So she was down there Sunday morning.
Is there water? Do you know if the bathrooms are working? We'll find out.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll do some investigating though, because I still have concerns. Stuff ain't right. Stuff ain't right. Got to be fixed.
Okay, so just to answer your questions, no, there's no working showers at the IRC for the men's. We're just left to fend for ourselves. So that's why I look so wonderful this evening. There are working showers in the women's. There's still only, I think, 1 or 2 working men's toilets. Now, this stuff, sorry, I was about to curse, should have been fixed a long time ago. That's on them. It's not on you. It really isn't. I mean, yeah, the IRC, we already know about all the problems, and that's slowly changing, but I mean, it's still untenable. The other things that we need to look about is one of the big problems is everyone talks about the unsupervised things stuff on the street. Now I know the things that like lockers have been provided as an alternative, but no one wants them. Well, right now it's kind of a necessity, and honestly, the places where the homeless community convenes, the library, the parks, and yes, here, where people stay as the only safe. The safe resources outside the IRC, that they need to bear the responsibility, flat out. And look at it as an incentive to get everyone housed. Now, I know you guys just bought the Regency. Thank you. I mean, that's just a step. I mean, there's more that needs to be done. I mean, you really need to look at housing 700 in the next 2 to 3 years, 2 at best. You're going to have still about 30% of the community that will not want to be housed. That's where you get tent cities. You can regulate them, you can manage them, and that's acceptable. You don't have to have a San Francisco type thing on your hands. But what it really amounts to is with the conversations I've had with Zach, he knows what's going on. I mean, he actually listens to us. We only have 2 effective outreach teams. We've got Behart and we've got the ambassadors. They're phenomenal, but they're overburdened. We need a lot more case managers, which I know is being worked on, but I mean, we're seeing new people every day. When you get your PIT count, point in time count next year, yeah, that's going to be a little bit of a significant increase. The one after that, that's what I'm looking at. You're looking at 40% increase. Because I know of people that have talked about that they might stop serving because they can no longer afford it. And I mean, that's a problem. One of the things that Greensboro's always done well is serve the people of the community. Right now, you got more and more services saying we can't do this anymore. And it's because our numbers keep growing, and it's such a rapid pace that you guys are about to face your real first homeless crisis you've ever seen. Right now it's a crisis of aesthetics. But see you guys next month.
Thank you. After Philip Marsh, Alex Ritchie, Kim Grimsley Ritchie, and Trayvon Worth.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, we hear a lot of what is not working correctly at the IRC. Dr. Wells, heard you over there this weekend. Glad that you could make it into the area. We think that, there needs to be more coordination at this point, especially as we're getting to this 30-day assessment that we have asked that organization to perform on their facility. It's kind of troubling to me that in this 30-day assessment, I see some things that kind of stick out to me. If I'm not mistaken, Ms. Hightower is the liaison for the continuum of care, if I'm not mistaken. I do not see her included in any of these meetings that's going on, and you would think that would be. And so we need to fix that. We definitely need to fix that, which is why I'm bringing it up. You would think that would be a point of contact for City Council, that real-time information can be shared. So again, we just don't feel like the best foot is being put forward. Additionally, I'm here to report, I did speak with Mr. King. We had a 2-hour conversation. I felt that it was productive, but that remains to be seen on what is actionable. But what we have not seen is any other members in the community reached out to, which is definitely troubling because there's been plenty of time for that to be done. Additionally, if I could just point out one thing to everyone here. On 8-5, it says that X, I'm assuming, no, that's executive director. Okay. So scratch that. That was a question that I was going to have. But, I think if I could just give some input on how this is going, if we could have Ms. Hightower to be a part of these meetings, We understand that it will be adversarial in the IRC's eyes. If community members are at those meetings at this time, they've requested that they be at our meetings, but we're never invited to theirs. That's fine, but we would also like Mr. Hightower to be at those meetings on our behalf because she's been very diligent in these parts of the conversations. And I think the most pressing point is that we do not have the armed security. And from what I'm saying, and as well, ACM Davis contacted me by email today, and it was discussed that basically the IRC is still holding the city hostage and saying they will only get armed security or any security once they get paid. We need to get to the bottom of that because that needs to happen before, not after. We can't be held hostage based on what they do and don't want to do based on what money they get. So,
Well, I don't want to answer this directly, but I think the email that I sent talked about our contracts with them are reimbursable. So they've got to spend the money first, and then we reimburse them for the expenses. And we did address the issue about armed security. And Trey, I don't know if you want to hop in, but it's just that we don't have the additional police officers at this time to be that armed security, and the sheriff said they didn't either. But especially once the bridge is fixed, and it is, Nasha, we're still on for this month, that police and sheriff will be able to be there on a more regular basis as a drive-through, especially when the bridge is.
Nancy, can I interrupt before you answer the question? Though I'm a little baffled. This whole thing started out 2 months ago at a meeting over the county. We talked about the first thing was security. Where is it then? I mean, that was the first thing that came up. It was an issue around security because things were happening, gang activity, all those things were going on, and they needed some security. There's been 2 incidences I know. There's nobody there. Ridden through there myself. There's nobody there. There was a gentleman there with a T-shirt on. I don't know where he is now. Goldie, you were there Sunday. Was anybody there?
And then I heard all this behind me, and there was nobody there. They called for someone. We just all stopped, and waited until the person calmed down. But no, there was nobody in there.
Yeah, all this money they keep asking for, we agreed, and I said, okay. They said, and they needed that to help. That security was the first thing. I sent 6 company names to them myself that I know do this work. Some of them have been even trained in security. I sent them those names to Jim King, myself, and would gladly help facilitate some of that discussion, but they don't want to talk to me. You're absolutely right. Zach may include me on an email. Thank you, Zach. But beyond that, the only other emails I get is pictures of people crapping on the sidewalk. That's all I get. I'm so tired of seeing that, I don't know what to do. And something's got to be done. This is unsafe, unsanitary. They need porta-johns, something, but if they ain't got no water, maybe they can't go to it. Maybe that's why they're crapping on the patio. I don't know. But something's got to be done. And security somewhere could kind of monitor some of that. And somebody wrote an email and said somebody was peeing off the bridge. So,
So I did.
I'm sorry, but
So
this
the
is
IRC says all showers and men's toilets are working now. We're still renovating the women's. Shutdowns have been brief with alternate restrooms available. Trey?
Yeah, so to address the security component, Mr. Marsh and a few others, and I know it's not just a question from Mr. Marsh, but this has been a question in general about how do we reestablish the security on the outside, but then also the inside for the people that are coming there. We've had multiple discussions. I don't want to answer for the IRC. I know the last communication we received was that security staff was supposed to begin on September 1st. We can follow up on that to get some feedback to see where that is. And I can tell you it's up to them as a nonprofit to identify whether that's armed or unarmed security, some of the reality of why they didn't go the route of police officers, whether it's GPD or sheriff, would just merely be consistency of having someone there around the clock. But I can tell you, in the interim, GPD has stepped in. I know they've talked with Chief Thompson. Assistant Chief Harris has been very active, and they've developed a plan to have more aggressive patrols in the area. I know, Mr. Morris, you and several others have worked with Lieutenant Diaz, who has done a tremendous job of addressing things. But also, I just want to make sure that everyone understands that as we approach this is a working relationship that we have with the IRC. So we'll follow back up and get some feedback as it relates to where they are and if the security staff has started. I know one of the other things you want to hear about is timing. Councilwoman Hightower, heard you ask, if someone was there in the early morning hours. I do know that one of the agreements that we had were for a 24-hour coverage of security. So again, those are some things that we'll follow up on. But I do want everybody to understand that GPD has stressed itself beyond. I know we're short and we're taxed, but this is a really important thing to everybody. And we've heard the complaints from the community. So we're doing all the things we can to help address
Well, certainly security should have been within that first 30 days.
Yeah.
I think we were all pretty specific that we needed to have security present there 24/7.
Yes, ma'am. We'll get that updated immediately.
And it would also be helpful to know that if security is not in place, that a date certain as to when it will be, since it is the top priority.
Yes,
The
sir.
date certain has passed.
Yeah.
Well, if it's not in there,
So-
but, right, September 1, but if not, then a date certain.
Thank
If
you.
I could, just one little, and that's why I think Ms. Hightower needs to be at those meetings, because then that gets pointed out in real time. It shouldn't have to wait till someone comes in here and brings it up, and then we have to follow up.
Thank you.
And that's where we're not working together. So, but thank you for the answer.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Hey, I'm Alex Ritchie. I own a building across the street from the IRC, and it's really disturbing to hear the things that are going on. And I know everybody's asking these guys what's going on, but you're not asking the homeless. Those are the ones that keep coming up here and telling you that they're not getting the services. And last time I was here, I read off article after article after article of people not getting services and not getting the things that they need at the IRC, and they're still not. And we keep talking about it, we keep giving them money, and there's no accountability. If they're supposed to have security people, when we all talked about this and we all have an expectation that it's going to be safe and it's not, who's going to do something about it? Somebody needs to do something about it. And we have an expectation as taxpayers. And the only reason why this all got brought up was because a bunch of business owners got together and started raising Cain about it. Because y'all would have just let it keep going as it was, because it was terrible until we started, all these people, all these business owners got together and started jumping up and down about it. And that's the only time somebody started talking about it. And it's a shame. A service that's needed is this badly in this country right now is not getting the attention it needs. And, they sent out this drop-in center budget line items, and I just went through it just real quickly today and kind of highlighted a few things. On top of the $206,000 they wanted for armed security, they still have extra security of $87,000. Do they need it? If they're going to have 2 armed guards there or armed people there, do they need the extra security? Does anybody say anything about that, or are we just going to skip over the $87,000 that they're putting in for security? The cleaning, $179,000 for cleaning. Nobody's there cleaning. I just don't know what to say about this. And then the insurance benefits and all that stuff is $83,000. I don't get those benefits, but I get to pay for them. I have an expectation that we as a community are going to take care of these people and listen to them. Stop listening to everybody else and listen to the homeless people that are coming up to you and telling that the showers are broken. Because you can get a text and say, they just texted me and said that they were, but he said they weren't. He's the one using them. I guarantee you this person that you sent the text to has never taken a shower there. Ever. Or use the toilets, or the sinks that are in disarray. We get pictures sent to us from the homeless people of sinks that are just full of garbage. One sink working. One toilet working. They got a $50,000 grant last year. Christina said that she got a $50,000 grant last year for updating the plumbing in that. What have they done with it?
Hello, council people. I've got lots to talk about, so I'll jump around. I support everything that the homeless people and houseless people are saying because they are accurate, and I have been trying to relay it to you guys for the last however many months, and I have lots of emails to document it. They just came in and replaced the men's bathroom toilets, and they did them with prison-style bathroom toilets. They did the stainless steels. They fixed the urinals, and they fixed the toilets. But prior to that, only 2 toilets were working in the men's bathroom. Only 2 toilets were working in the women's bathroom, but they were clogged as well. In both the men's and the women's bathroom, there are 3 sinks that were functional. And I have photographs of these things, okay? There's a sink, there's a spigot outside where you could, put a hose into it on these 90-something degree days that they get stuck going outside at 3 o'clock when the cleaning people don't arrive until 4:15. So the people have to leave there with all their stuff, put it outside, sit in the heat, okay, with no access to water, no access to toilets, because there's no porta pots, okay? So from 3 to 6:30, they're supposed to use the bathroom wherever. Well, I have a CD that I can expose to you guys of one Dr. Stokes' office, where we have 75 different people using the bathroom on her property along with everything else. And that's not mentioning our property. But we know that. But you know what? It is the IRC's fault. They need porta pots. If you're going to have an operation for 24/7 to support the homeless, then what part are you supporting the homeless when you kick them out, make them not to where they can come inside? Christina said at your work session, at nighttime, at a certain time, if somebody has to use the bathroom, they can knock on the door. Bullshit. It doesn't happen that way. What you have to do is if you are kicked out and it is 11 o'clock or it's 9 o'clock or it's 1 o'clock, it's whoever's working at the time, you cannot come in for the rest of the evening. You get to come back in the morning when the door opens up. So where do you think all these people are? Why are they using the bathroom? I'm the one that sent an email about the guy walking on the bridge. I've seen 2 guys walk across the bridge from one side to the middle of the bridge, peeing. In the middle of the day. We have it on camera, like literally walking, peeing. And now both of those, one was when the IRC was closed for cleaning, one was not. I took a picture of it and I sent it over to you guys and everyone else so that you can share that picture with whoever's working at the IRC, because where's the accountability? Because if it was me, I'm over there telling people to pick up trash. I carry so much food, underwear. I just ran out of underwear. I give so much on a daily basis to the people at the IRC because they're not getting what they need from the IRC. And I am reiterating and responsive, and I'm not even going to, get into what took place on July 22nd, where there was people that came into the IRC 11:08 p.m. with guns, handguns, and nobody's mentioned anything about it. Do you guys want to ask me anything about that? Because I have the 911 calls along with about 50 homeless people recollections, people that have stayed inside, outside. I have video and everything else. So does anyone have any questions about that? Can we talk about that? Can we start being transparent? Can we start helping the people that can help themselves? Because the same people come up here and say the same thing over and over again, and they're not getting the help they need. And it's not going to change if you keep the leadership in leadership there today, because they're not doing their jobs. And I appreciate you guys, because it's not your fault. I know you guys are trying to do something. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Worth? After Mr. Worth, Susan Burkholder, Samuel Hawkins, and Terrell Dungy.
Howdy. How are everyone doing today? So I'm here with a couple of concerns about our city, and I wanted to potentially do a partnership, because once upon a time I was here roughly 4 years ago. It's been a community advocate battle for me that I've been here speaking with you all, and I'm going to be completely honest. Our city has came 10 times worse than it was when I came here about the nonprofit organizations that was money laundering and embezzling our federal entities. If housing is a human right and it's house keys instead of handcuffs, how come I haven't been housed? So just like the man said, I got a couple notes. I had a meeting with Miss Melanie earlier at the IRC, and I've been trying to get bases with Christina Singleton for so long. So the security situation is definitely a thing as far as searching the people that go into this place and searching the people that come out of this place. I'm talking about stuff, all of the files that I ever had about my community advocacy has been stolen out of my locker. So the lockers need to be gutted as soon as possible. The showers have not been fixed. I can look, just like I'm looking at you through one shower and see you over there. The bathrooms, the pressure is not all the way up. I mean, I wouldn't even go in there and refer nobody to take a shower there because it's so dirty and filthy. Like, I just launched my nonprofit organization. When I came in here, it was just a peddler's permit that I got because guys was dropping off hundreds and hundreds of hot water in front of the IRC. So I went and got me a wagon and some ice, and I made a way. So for my concern, there are items inside of this warehouse at the Interactive Resource Center that can help me take my next innovative step in life. What I was asking for is a vending card, a convenience card that will allow me to be an asset to society despite all the negativity that you guys see on the news. So I'm Trevon Worth. My business is Active Snacks Incorporated. It's a nonprofit organization I've just launched. I'm looking for people that are willing to invest and grant or fund whatever I've been doing for so long just off of pulling my wagon. I've fed hundreds of people. You know, February 1, Elm Street, if anybody know, they know, you know, who I am. I've made the news several of times, and, you know, I just want to do it for the people. It's not pretty much for me, and I hope it's someone in here that can, you know, have a heart to understand it. It's not about Palestine and ceasefires. It's actually right here in Greensboro that we need to get right first. I've heard about Mr. McVaney, and I mean, I went all and did the research I needed to do from block by block, all the way from Kentucky to downtown Greensboro Incorporated, the umbrella businesses and the third-party people that's under it, Allied, all the claims and all the inevitable things that Allied and East Coast security is doing. Like, I don't think I'm being scapegoated. I mean, I'm getting kicked out of the depot, no charges, no nothing, and then it's like following back to me to the IRC, and that's my address. So I'm just, you know, you couldn't find me in the park, but I'm back, and I'm back, and I'm ready to 10 toes down, whatever I got to do. Just 3 minutes, I told you 2 years ago, just 3 minutes is not long enough. So if you can find a place in your heart to sit down and have a meet with me, I can totally appreciate all of you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. I'm Susan Burkholder. Last December, just a little over 8 months ago, the Keep Gates City Housed campaign was launched by the American Friends Service Committee. Both in preparation for the launch and as an ongoing effort of the campaign, the AFSC staff has been engaged in research and information gathering around housing issues, presently with a major focus, as you probably know, on evictions. This effort included initiating the Eviction Court Watch with an invitation to interested citizens such as myself to learn firsthand about the eviction process here in Guilford County and to hear of the plights that our fellow residents facing evictions are in, most often through no fault of their own, and especially with the enormous rise in rent in the recent years. Throughout the winter and spring, AFSC staff continued its efforts in building community awareness around the issue of evictions and in garnering community support for full-time team, as you know, and rental assistance through city funding. In addition to Eviction Court Watch, staff and a growing number of volunteers spoke with hundreds of people and secured over 775 pledge cards in support of the campaign. Many concerned citizens came to City Council meetings to voice and show their support as well. So we are delighted with the Council's vote in June to include this funding in the budget. Very appreciative, and appreciative of the Council's commitment to safe and affordable housing for all of our city's residents. Those of us with the housing campaign also remain committed to this work. We all know that success will require broad-based efforts on the part of multiple partners. We are here tonight to again say thank you and to continue the conversation. We are interested in hearing whether there is a process in place yet for the distribution of these funds, and to hear how we will be able to stay informed on the city's process with regard to this. So thank you for addressing these conditions this evening as you are able, or as soon as you are able.
Good evening, members of City Council. Samuel Hawkins. And some time ago during the COVID pandemic, I think that the verbiage, Greensboro Stronger Together, became a catchphrase to inspire the residents who were dealing with a world that no one was prepared to handle. Well, it seems that now is yet another opportunity where we can add to and do that very thing. Greensboro presently ranks in the top 10 of 100 cities in the United States with the highest eviction rates, and it can be stated that a lack of resources in the home has a ripple effect. That means not just the adults are struggling to create a livable space that will sustain the family, but the children whose performance in school can be just as equally, if not the more, become adversely affected. The reality is that such a challenge can and most likely will affect the work performance of the adults, affect, in many cases, the behavior of the children, as well as the overall family dynamic. Now, when you multiply that outcome by the number of families faced with such lack, then it is our duty as elected officials, appointed officials, and even clergy and other individuals who have a duty to serve the public to ensure the efficiency with which families receive assistance. What motivates me in all of this is the idea that we as a city can help bring the many of our residents from a place of one paycheck away from losing what was taken as so long to build into that assistance made all the difference in the world. Let's face it, sometimes people reach a point where doing all that they can just may not be enough to keep them from coming home to a padlocked door. I see it as my duty to put forth my best effort in helping where there may exist hopelessness. Keeping Gate City housed has brought together more than simply scores of people who voluntarily choose to speak and serve within a public platform, but we are a dedicated group who see the need, who see the suffering, and in many cases see the loss of so many trying to merely make the best out of the lives they live. Know that Keeping Gate City housed stands ready to come to the table and work closely in conjunction with the city to make this initiative as efficient and effective as possible. So this is not simply a singular effort by a city municipality. This should be an effort, in the words of you, Madam Mayor, and echoed by the City Council, a Greensboro that is indeed stronger together. Keeping Gate City housed stands ready to assist, but question, what is the present timeline for funding being released to residents?
Thank you. Terrell Dungy, followed by Cece Crawford, followed by Chandrika Malone. And those are all the speakers I have signed up. If I've missed you, please see the courier in the back.
Awesome. Well, shoot.
It's all right. I'm a tech guy. Yeah, it clicks. Cool. Hi. Hi there. I'm Terrell Dungy. I am a community organizer with American Friends Service Committee and an old Asheboro neighbor on Pearson. Back in front of y'all again after our historic win in the summer, working together to get that funding for eviction prevention and rental assistance through the TEAM program, which has been, again, historic, and my phone has been ringing off the hook from folks looking for ways to access that money to help them stay in their homes. Fortunately, as of July 1st, we haven't heard much about how that process is going. A few updates, checking in with some council folks. Thank you, Hugh. But still just looking to get some clarity on, like, what does this process look like? You know, a lot of people have had very impassioned feelings about the IRC and this piece around accountability about what they're doing. And I love that. I think we should kind of match that energy when it comes to city-based projects as well. Like, what is the projected date for something? And if it passes, what is the by-when date? How do we build some of that together? And that's kind of why we're here, is how can we help in developing that type of transparency? We think it's important that we can get this funds as active as possible for folks that we're seeing, again, every day. It's 2 months now. That's 2 payments of rent people might be behind or have been evicted. We also see an important need to build relationship with the city as we're doing our tenant work. It's interesting that some of the things that we're working on have been touched in the room. We've heard people talk about the receivership and the harm that, you know, just it makes for folks who are just individual owners. But we see the benefit when we, at like larger complexes, we canvass with tenants with dire situations and dilapidation, that if we could force that type of investment on those properties, we could actually save some of the affordable housing that is falling into disrepair. Immediately off the top of my head, Huntington Woods, which has been in the news before, New Garden Apartments has been in the news before. And that's why we want to figure out how can we continue to work with the city. Like, we made the impossible happen last season. We want to see what we can make happen when we continue to work together. So my question really is, wanted to bring that, but also just requesting, like, we have a sit down with whoever's in charge of putting together this process for the rental assistance in the TEAM partnership. I think that was Greensboro Neighborhood Development. Good to see you again, Michelle Kennedy. I'm glad you're back, and hopefully that means that we can get those conversations moving. But also just want to hear from the city on if there are any updates y'all have to share, or any ways that we can, as community, help keep that momentum going as folks are doing for the IRC.
So Chris may want to address that after Cece speaks. But I do know that he's had conversations with UNCG, and I don't know if you've spoken with legal aid, but obviously there has to be an executed contract, and that's what's being worked through.
Okay, I'll wait to hear more updates. I'll pass it over to Cece.
Hey y'all, so my name's Cecily Crawford. I live at 502 High Street. I am the program director for AFSNC. Which houses Keep Gate City Housed. It also houses our Eviction Court Watch, which we have continued to observe and witness what is happening around our eviction crisis. And so 10 days from going to court and hearing possession to having the sheriff padlock your door. That's what's happening. That's what's going to happen to a woman that we saw in court this past Wednesday. We heard her talk about how she works for the city, how she fell ill and spent at least a month in the hospital. We watched her fall to pieces as she explained that she had paid her last year of rent up front, $23,000. We heard how she had been renting from this owner for 13 years. She did not foresee herself getting drastically ill. She was in the hospital for over a month and missed any opportunity to raise money to pay her rent. She's waiting for disability to kick in. She was with legal assistance. The landlord refused any kind of extension and wanted her rent. But she needed that rental assistance, and we have no access to the rental assistance fund, and therefore she will be unable to stay housed. We know that every day that team is not there and there is no rental assistance money, that hundreds more households are being unhoused. We know that this is just the first step to protecting tenants and reducing homelessness through eviction prevention, but we are just slowing the hemorrhaging of tenants meeting the street. While this is happening, slumlords are taking advantage of the gaps in code enforcement policies and enforcement. We hope you will continue to cooperate with the community that came to you with the ideas to address eviction. We are committed to building transformative solutions to the problem of tenant rights. So I'm just going to reiterate the things that we're asking for. We're looking to get an update on the 440 for team. We're looking for an update on when the $1.47 million in rental assistance will be available. And we would like our coalition of homeowners, renters, landlords, advocates, and faith communities to work with you on how we can strengthen code enforcement and encourage negligent landlords to fix and maintain safe, healthy, and dignified housing. Thanks.
Council, just briefly, as the mayor alluded to, we are engaged. I do owe you a full update, and I would just ask that you allow me this week to get that to you so that I do that in full. I would love to continue to engage with the community, particularly the group that has advocated so strongly, so happy to follow up with them as well. Just need a little bit of time to do that. As we receive these things the night of, sometimes it's hard for me to prepare an answer in advance, so if you just give me a couple of days, I can do that. Thank you.
And our final speaker is Chandra.
Good evening, everyone. Like you said, my name is Chandrika Malone. I came to properly reintroduce myself. I am actually a housing advocate for the unhoused. I was here about a year ago speaking on the same subject about the unhoused people that doesn't have anything to show for anything that y'all have said y'all done. Miss Nancy Vaughn, you informed me that you was going to give me an informational book A to Z, informing me about resources that can help the people that you guys are supposed to take care of, but that never happened. So I just came here to see what exactly are you guys doing, or what's your overall plan, since my plan that I had, you guys kind of took it and ran with it. So I just wanted to come here to properly reintroduce myself and see what exactly are we doing for the people that has nowhere to go. Like Malik, he comes up here every city council meeting. Ever since I've been coming for a year straight, since September of last year. He has nowhere to go. That should be the number one person that at least have a stable place to live, due to the fact that he's always here. The last time he had a stable place to live is when I myself walked to Elizabeth office with about 16 other people, and we marched down here, and you guys housed them for 90 days. And after those 90 days, you guys kicked them back out to the streets. So my question is, what exactly are y'all plans for these people that are unhoused? You guys are building all these developments, but do they have a seat? Do they have a place to stay? Because, I mean, you guys can use their trust accounts to actually help them to get somewhere to live. So we need to be very transparent. They all need second chances, just like, your husband had a second chance in 2016 when he was drinking with those minors. These other people, we all need second chances when we do stuff wrong. Oh, you don't know what I'm talking about? Oh, okay. So they need second chances too. Just like your husband made mistakes drinking with people under the age, they made mistakes too. I made mistakes in my life as well. I'm not perfect. But I'm here to see what exactly the plan is for these people that are unhoused. So do you guys have anything to say? Miss Mayor?
You asked for many months ago. You came up here with another young woman, and you had both started some nonprofits.
But when we found out that you guys were able to use their trust account to take care of them, we backed away. We thought you guys were going to take care of the people, since that's y'all job.
We don't do anything with trust accounts.
Okay, y'all don't know. Well, I'll send you guys all information about it so you can be aware, okay? All right, thank you so much. Have a great one.
Okay, that is our final speaker. And please note that one of the items is to move our council meeting from September 17th to the 24th. So just be aware of that.
I saw that.
And I think, Hugh, you moved it? I did. Do you have a second?
I second it.
Seconded by Mrs. Hightower.
Yeah,
Council,
please.
please vote. I'm assuming that passes 9-0? Okay. All right, that's 9-0. Thank you. So that is the end of our published agenda. Are there any boards and commissions appointment, Mrs. Hightower?
Yes, I do have one. Camelia Johnson Wood. I'm appointing her to the Human Rights Commission.
What position will she be?
Human rights.
Yeah, but who will she be?
I think I just have had a vacancy for so long.
Okay. All right, is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 9-0.
That's the only one I have for tonight.
Okay. Hugh? Zach? Mary Kay? None this evening. Mayor? No. Nope. All right. That's for boards and commissions. Brief comments, Mayor Pro Tem?
I want to know what our relationship with Section 8 is. I get a lot of calls from people with complaints, and I don't think there's anything we can do. I don't think we really have a way to influence Section 8, but I need to have that verified. And who does, is the question.
GHA.
It's the Greensboro Housing Authority, but if you're getting concerns like that, I'd be happy to convey that over to James or...
Okay, all right, thank you. That's all I have.
We get a number of complaints about Section 8 and GHA, and I usually forward them to our appointments on the board, and they seem to be able to get a response. Mary Kay? Yeah.
Let's see. So August 24th, there was a commission on the status of women Equality Day breakfast. Councilmember Hightower and Mayor Vaughn attended. It was very nice and Tammy as well. I'm sorry, I almost left you out there. I apologize. It was very well attended, and it was a great speaker from UNCG. Also on that day was the Unity Walk. And then last week we received a large check for the GTA electric buses in the amount of $22 million. I'm sure Mrs. Hightower will fill in some more on that. Congresswoman Manning and Mayor Vaughn and Councilmember Hightower, so she can add some more to that. Last week we had the State of Our Community by the Chamber of Commerce. And there were a lot of wonderful awardees, but I wanted to commend Mayor Vaughn. She received the Stanley Frank Economic and Workforce Development Award. So I want to be sure and congratulate her. I know there were a lot of us there at that luncheon, so I don't want to leave anyone out, so I won't mention anybody, but congratulations, Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Very well deserved.
And as I said, I accepted it on behalf of the entire City Council.
Yes, she
because
did.
we are a
Yes,
great
she
team.
did. Oops. Look, that came on my phone.
She agreed.
Oh, wow.
When I accepted,
Siri
I accepted
came
for
on.
myself.
Anyway, that's all I had, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Hugh?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'll simply say that Faith Action International did have its Unity Walk on the 24th, and Council Member Abuzwader and I were there and gave greetings. And it's always nice to see the community come together from a cultural standpoint. I also say that our Office of Community Safety has held 2 community responses in response to some of the homicides that have occurred. The one on Hague Street with Jacayla Moore, and then most recently over off of Spring Garden with Davion Jessup. Those were sponsored by, again, the Office of Community Safety with Director McNeil and also Arthur Durham. And those are really attended by many of those community-based organizations that are the boots on the ground, those who meet our residents and our youths on the streets where they are, and they are very impactful because it goes right to the communities. You have a chance to actually speak with the neighbors who are impacted. For instance, someone is murdered some 30 yards from their home, and they have a young child in the home, and they're scared. And so it's a show of support from the City of Greensboro and the community. And so those have occurred.
And Crime Stoppers.
And Crime Stoppers.
They are always out there in force. And one thing that those walks, they usually result in some phone calls afterwards. So it's great to have that relationship with Crime Stoppers. And Mary Kay, I know you're on that board, so thank you.
Absolutely. And then just a couple more things. One is going back to the conversation from tonight regarding the IRC and the bathrooms, making sure that we do follow up with the bathrooms and the showers and make sure that that is taken care of. And also to make sure we have a conversation with the leadership at the IRC and make sure that the city and the IRC are on the same page as it comes down to the funding for the security. Are they expecting the funds first before they hire, or are they expecting to spend the money and then be reimbursed? I don't know what the thought is, but it's just very important that we're on the same page when it comes to those expectations. Next, on the last comments about the eviction program, the team program, given where I sit during the day, it is very important that we work as hard as we possibly can, as fast as we possibly can, to tie up those contract loose ends so that our residents who are facing eviction, and evictions are occurring more and more often, have a safety net, so to speak, of representation. We haven't talked as much about the direct assistance, but hopefully that second shoe will come so that after the team program does identify those needs, that there is some direct assistance that can be provided and to mitigate evictions. Last but not least, all this stuff that we've talked about and we will talk about tonight in our council comments are really kind of fleeting once you compare them to real life things that are occurring in our community. And this past weekend, we all heard that Brian Clary, who's the executive producer, publisher of the Triad City Beat, he, his wife, and his child and their child were involved in a very serious accident in Charlottesville, Virginia. I've spoken with Brian just recently, and they're recovering. It's going to be a long haul, but life is fleeting. Sometimes we get caught up in the things that we think are the big things, but they're the small things. We heard tonight from Carol Carter about having too much water in Friendly Lakes. We heard from others at the IRC saying that there's too little water. But for Brian, his wife, and their son, just a blink of an eye, they're traveling, and in a blink of an eye, things could have been so tragically worse. So saying a prayer out to Brian and his family, a prayer of strength and comfort and recovery for Brian and his family and his Triad City Beat family.
Brian and I, we traded some messages today, and he's feeling, pretty battered, and his son, there's extreme concern for Jill and her recovery. So our prayers, and there is a GoFundMe page for his family, and I would encourage people if they have some extra cash. Jill suffered some pretty extreme injuries. I think they're called crush injuries, and many bones in her body have been broken. She's going to have a very long recovery in front of her. So please keep him and his family in our thoughts and prayers. And if you have some extra change, I know they'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
District 5, Tammy.
I know that Councilwoman Hoffman, sorry, Nancy.
At least you didn't call her Hightower.
Is going to speak about the Folk Festival coming up this weekend. But I did want to mention also that we have the stair climb this Saturday morning. That will be at the new garage across the street from the ballpark. And as much as we will celebrate this weekend with the Folk Festival, and it looks like we're going to have some good weather for it, you know, we have to keep in mind an anniversary from 2001 and the firefighters and just how many human lives were lost that day. So I'd like to encourage people to come out to the stair climb. It's a very moving, very touching event. And I think check-in is at 8 o'clock, and the climb is actually at 9 on Saturday. Is that right, Chris?
It is.
9:30? Okay.
Check-in at 8.
It's in our packet. Sorry. But look online. You'll find it in social media. You'll find it in the newspaper. But I would encourage people to participate in that. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Sorry, the check-in is at 8. I don't want you to be late. And it starts at 9. Yep.
Mrs. Hoffman?
In conjunction with that, I want us to keep in mind, too, that we have Jim Gallucci's 9/11 sculpture in downtown Greensboro on South Elm and Martin Luther King. And I often, in fact, I try to always get there on that date and just sit and be quiet for just a few minutes and sort of recollect. Yeah, I'll mention the Folk Festival again. This is the 10th anniversary of the North Carolina Folk Festival. Our first 3 years, of course, we were the national, but now this is our 10th year in Greensboro. And I have to tell you, I think it's going to be the most fantastic lineup of talent that we've had in 10 years. I think I may have said this a couple of weeks ago, but you know, if you had to buy tickets to hear just the headliners Friday night, Saturday night, and last Sunday afternoon, which will be MIPSO, you know, you would be spending hundreds of dollars, and yet this is a free event. It's a wonderful opportunity for entire families to come and enjoy not just the music, but vendors and all of the other things that go on, really, with street fair and music. So I encourage everybody in the city to please come and participate. You can use public transportation. You can use the trolley when you get downtown to take you from venue to venue if you want to reduce the walking time, but it'll be a short walk to each of the areas. It's a slightly different footprint this year, but an interesting footprint, I think. One of our main stages will be at the depot, which we've never had before. So we've had a wonderful staff, a very small staff, who've put this together along with board and volunteers. So if we have this kind of weather, it may be the most perfect weekend we've had in 10 years for the festival. So please come out and enjoy this is just one of the many things your city offers us as citizens to participate in.
They're also doing a public service appreciation night, which will be September, hold on one second, it's right here in front of me, September 6th from 5:30 to 8 at the Cadillac Service Garage, 304 East Market. And that is for public service employees, including the county, educators and all. And so you have to bring your badge to get in, you know, you and your family. But then they have beverages, snacks, DJs, games, and giveaways. So it's a nice way to appreciate our public service employees. Mr. Matheny?
I would just say about the folk festival, Jody Rupel has done a great job this year planning, and that the businesses will be open, so don't just eat at the food trucks. You could eat at bricks and mortar and support downtown too.
Mm-hmm.
And I just looked at the weather and it does look great.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Goldie?
Trying to, I want to thank the police for the assistance that they've been giving me. We've had a problem on East Market Street with some friends, we're kind of squatters. And you know, when you say something about people that don't have a place to live, then folk think you are being ugly. But it's a matter of sometimes they can get a little ornery and sit in places where they don't need to be sitting. And when you ask them to move, they wouldn't move. So the police department kind of helped me with that, and I really appreciate that because I kept getting calls from some of my constituents about that. We were able, Councilwoman Abuzawade and I were able to attend. Did you mention the sneaker ball?
I did not.
Okay, we went to the sneaker ball on the 23rd. It was sponsored by Safer Cities, East Greensboro Safer Cities, and all the folks there were of age. So all of us were senior citizens, and we dressed up, but we had on sneakers. It was a lot of fun, and I want to compliment the Safer Cities group for all the work that they've done in our community. It was held at the Fantasy Event Center at the Renaissance Shop on Phillips. And we also had the chance to go to the old Ashboro when they unveiled their mural that lights up at night. So if you have not been down Martin Luther King, and at night you'll see the community leaders' images of them on that mural. And it made front page of the papers, of the News and Record. So that was great. The city managers, the interim city manager was there, and some of the other council members. So things are happening in East Greensboro. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Goldie, you mentioned the mural, so Mr. Holston was just asking me. He said he went by to see it in the day, but no, you need to go see it at night. It's done with paint that lights up as well. So it's got solar lighting, but the paint, it's interesting. And it's a mural of community members. I like that. You know, we always, honor people that everybody honors all the time, but we don't really honor people who've done the work. And so Carl Brower and Reverend Wright, Nettie Code, B. Akins, Dorothy Brown, and Bob McAdoo.
Nettie Code.
Yeah, I mentioned Nettie. Yeah, she's on there as well. Bob McAdoo is on there, and another Mr. Saunders. So people have actually done the work in the community, and it's very nice. It's done very well. Done by one of our local artists, Darlene McClintock, who did, I think, Hester Park. Over in Hester Park. So she's very talented, and always glad when she can do things in our community. And she loves this community. She grew up over there, as a matter of fact, so really near and dear to her heart. So I was there at that. I was at the Equality breakfast, 9 o'clock in the morning.
Our next work session.
Need some grits, because we didn't have none. I got to go that early in the morning. But it was a nice breakfast done by the Commission on the Status of Women. Same day, I made it. But yeah, and then stopped by Warnersville to visit the Shalonda Poole Memorial. They had an event over there honoring her, as you know, the little girl who was killed years ago, and they finally found her killer, and she was killed over there. But I would like to ask, because we can go and look and do some improvements over there. It looks good, but if I'd like to ask y'all to go over and take a look, maybe the pathway, and we could do some upgrades to the path. It's right now, it's just gravel. And also, I'm a little concerned, it's kind of dark back down up in there. And so if we can look at some lighting over in that area, solar, as we've seen on the mural works as well. But yeah, and even though I went over there in the daytime, it still felt very closed in. And you know, so I can imagine at night it's pitch black. So if we could do that, I would appreciate y'all taking a look at that for me. What's my next one? Oh, the receivership program, I think is a great program to do. It's one of the ones I know has a lot of potential, but maybe we could do a work session on it to really get a full understanding, because people who don't really know, and it's not just taking people's houses, it is helping to get abandoned, boarded up, vacant homes back in housing rotation. And yes, it's going to take a little money because they've gone into disrepair for so long, and we've got to bring them back, get and have a way, and receivership will do that. And the good part about it is once we put the house toward receivership, owners go fix them, and that's part of what you want, as Mr. Powell said tonight, 50. Think about it. So, but I think we all could learn and benefit even more how it's working. Haven't gotten an update on it in a while. So if you could do a work session on that, I would appreciate that. We haven't done a work session in Thursday in a while. Let's do something on the Thursday for you. Do we? What we going to talk about?
On the 12th, we have a work
Y'all going to make me get up. I ain't going to say what I want to say on a Thursday. No, you know where we got to go 9 o'clock. Y'all making too much of these habits.
Well, put me in the 10 o'clock group, I'm going to tell you that.
Well, you know you are. I'm not. I don't get that. I don't get that.
You younger than that. Goodbye.
I'm going to work it out. So as Ms. Abuzawader mentioned, on this past Monday, thanks to the Biden-Harris infrastructure bill, Representative Kathy Manning got us $22.4 million for GTA. Unfortunately, we couldn't cash the check right away, but we're planning to cash it. And it will buy us 6, I'm trying to remember the number, electric buses, 12 hybrid buses, 26 charging stations, because charging stations are very expensive as well. And so we'll be able to charge our buses and keep GTA on the move. And it will also allow us to begin to start on our crosstown, our next crosstown route. We'll be going north and south. Currently, east and west has a high ridership. People are really taking advantage of it. And so very proud of that. $22.4 million coming into our coffers. So thanks for those who advocated and Representative Manning.
Kathy Manning, great.
Oh, yeah, did very good. We appreciate it. And then finally, let's talk about this IRC business. This has gotten to be problematic. It's not getting any better. We talked about it. It was 30 days. It's not gotten any better. And Goldie's situation she talked about, she addressed it, but it was that population. And we're not down on that population because we know people have hard times, but they need some support. And I serve on a homeless task force that I feel like we're doing nothing. I just feel totally like, what are we doing? We haven't met.
We haven't had a meeting in months, and I think it was because it wasn't really going anywhere.
Well, it wasn't really going anywhere, and when we did come together and meet, the one thing we determined was, okay, all these issues our business people are having, and let me just say, I appreciate these businesses. I don't appreciate people calling them petty, because if they didn't pay property tax, we wouldn't have money to be spending. They're not petty. They have every right. They've worked hard to do their business in a responsible, respectful manner, not to have to worry about walking outside and stepping in something or having their water used for taking baths and things like that. And it's scary for them. So they have valid concerns, and we need to make sure.
Sharon, may I suggest we have a work session and talk about, that was on my mind as well, the IRC, and whether or not we want it to remain as it is or whether we want something different.
Yeah, I would agree. I know we had a work session a couple weeks ago, but I don't really think we got anywhere with it. And I mean, the R word, the R, resources. And my question was, what resources are they getting? What are they getting? When you're doing intake for the individuals there, you're determining, okay, they need housing, they need this, or need food. What are the resources, and how are you helping them? It's not just about sitting around playing games. So nobody want to play games. When you're struggling, you're going through something.
It needs to be a change.
And so some things got to change.
I'm disappointed that we didn't get a 30-day follow-up. If we did, I overlooked it, but I'm not.
You didn't overlook. You didn't overlook it. You didn't get it.
No, and that's the thing. We ask people, 30, 60, 90 days. I mean, just really immediate. I mean, it shouldn't take a rocket science to figure this, what we need to start doing. I know homelessness is a bad situation all across this country, but we've got to really hone in on what the true issues are, because there's some true issues that we're not addressing that need to be addressed. And who's suffering is the people who need the services.
We did get an update. We did. Yeah.
But
No, I'm talking about just us.
us. Well,
That's what I was talking about.
yeah. Well, I'm open. I mean, it just keeps being disturbing. Every time people come and speak, every time I ride by, every photo I get on my email, it's disturbing, and to hear it, to read an email where the people have to go out there with a paper towel and clean it up and sanitize, make sure. I mean, it's and some of it is mental, so I get that. They need help, but people need help. If it's a mental issue with them, why are we letting them just hang out there without helping with some guidance or something? So I would ask that we really need to hone in and talk about it, even among ourselves. We don't have to go back to a homeless task force meeting.
No, it would be interesting, though, Sharon, to have the COC kind of say what they're doing. You know, the COC has how many organizations? 50?
There's 60 organizations in the COC, but part of that is they got to get funded. And we keep directing money for something else and send all the money over there, and then they're not eligible. The money runs out. So you're talking about an ESOG grant, Emergency Solution Grant. You're talking about the YWCA. You know how much they got? They had $30,000. $30,000. But yet, we gave $400 and some $1,000 and looking at giving another $400 and more. So we got to look at some of these organizations. They're not getting the funding they need as well to help do the work we want them to get done. And YW's got families over there. We never talk about the families.
What do they have? 4 or 5? How many families do they have?
They were not sure how many when we went over there. They have a small Y, but they were all, I believe they had just let 2 families out, and they were getting ready to get 2 families in.
That's correct, yes.
So, yeah, they are doing. So we were over there, and we sat and talked to them. And they've got a house that they also own that they're willing, if we sit down and talk to them, to use that house to help house a couple. 2-bedroom, 2-bath house or whatever. So we got to find those kind of alternative solutions out here that are out here. So I think we've got to circle back to them too, Nasha, I believe. Because we were going to look and see.
Councilmember Hightower, we will follow up with them. I know that we have had some conversations with their executive director around providing additional support for beds, actual physical beds. I think that was one of the needs that they did identify when you and I did the site visit. And we were going to work with them through a plan for some of their operational capacity as well, because that was also a concern. But we can circle back with that team and provide an update.
I appreciate it, yeah. But the COC, yes, is great. Let me tell you what welfare reform did for me the other day. Had a lady who needed her light bill. She was in the dark. They guaranteed her light bill just so she could get her lights back on, and she was going to pay it on Monday. So they are working. They put a man for me who has 2 children from the woods into a hotel. So I can call and get those services. But they ran out of hotel money again. Hotel money, they're out. So you've got to help fund them. And we got to start looking at the funding streams. Where's the benefits of where we're getting? The other conversation is we got to talk to these developers that are building these houses, these apartments, and the ones they claim that are affordable, and yes, they are. But by the time we make the announcement, they gone. I was so disgusted that I'm somewhere cutting a ribbon for something. There's no apartments. People calling me, I want an apartment. I saw you on TV. I said, apartment gone. I didn't even know. They were already filled up. You're promising people hope. I said, don't do that again. I'm not participating in that again. You know, oh, well, we just wanted to announce. Yeah, but you're announcing. And then I started calling every apartment complex on the list. Every one. They all full. They got waiting lists.
We can't be upset, though, that people called and got spaces. I know that when we first talked about the Yanceyville apartments, that there were a group of people who immediately reached out to that church to figure out how they were going to get housing. I think that's great when people take the initiative and do it. I'm sorry that other people are frustrated over it, but the units are going to people who qualify.
But
and
whether
they had a caseworker or they did it themselves, I mean, they should be congratulated for having the foresight to make sure that they were in the line.
Yeah, but we've got to ensure that some of those units are reserved for those individuals that are on that by name list. Those folks are not getting anywhere. The rapid rehousing, they're not getting anything. So if you're building even if you reserve 5 for those individuals that are on that by name list, that are looking at and living in such squalor or living outside in their car. And so those are the conversations we got to have with these developers and these builders. Yeah, it's great that people are finding them, getting them, but they're moving from basically just one space to another. But some of the folk that are on the by name list have nowhere, or they're sleeping on a couch. And those are the discussions we got to have with people who want to build. So anyway, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Since I was last.
So I'll be real quick.
You weren't last.
I'll be.
Yeah, well, you know.
No, I'll be quick. We have an election that's coming up. Early voting will start relatively soon. Your sample ballots are now available, and they're really easy to look up. You just go to NC Voter Lookup. I go to NC Voter Lookup all the time, and all you have to do is put your first name and your last name in. It'll pull up your voter registration, and it will say sample ballot. I checked it last night. Mine was online. So there was some redistricting done, so people will be voting for different offices maybe. And it's great. You can go ahead and look at your ballot and figure out how you can vote before Election Day.
And I also want to remind, I'm glad you said that, because there's a couple of polling places that are changing because they were schools.
Mm-hmm.
So Archer is one, and Swan Middle is the other. They will not be polling places because they're going to be torn down. So people need to check their polling places in those areas too.
So, Mr. City Manager?
Just skip on over me, Mayor.
I went you first.
You did not.
I did too.
Yeah, yes, you did.
I beg your pardon. I just want to reiterate a meeting maybe in October so that we can really hash out what we really want for our homeless. This is, to me, this is it's challenging and it's annoying to a degree, not getting what we have asked for sometimes in a timely manner. And I think if we decide how we want this to look and how we want this to be, whether we want to keep that or whether we want another program, I'm very much interested in knowing that. I will be out of town the 23rd through the 28th. So,
but we do have a work session on the 12th.
I will be here for the work session.
Right.
Thank you. Mia, I'm sorry.
We do have one on the 12th.
All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's on my calendar.
Okay.
So that means we have one.
Your wish is my command. Just real briefly, the packets this evening are chock full of information. I wanted to tell you thank you. Those were developed based on conversations we had about things that maybe you wanted additional information on. So hopefully you found that helpful this evening. We'll continue to do that. Second, I hear you loud and clear with regard to not only the IRC, but our approach to supporting those experiencing homelessness. We actually do have some things that we'd like to recommend, some adjustments that we believe are in order, but certainly some investments that may need to be made as well. So continue to share your thoughts and ideas with us. I will say that ACM Trey Davis has already scheduled a meeting for first thing tomorrow morning with leadership at the IRC to have a discussion. So we appreciate him, and he'll be celebrating a birthday tomorrow as well. Thank you.
Ah, happy birthday
to you.
Will there be cake up here? Yeah. All right. Mr. City Attorney? Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn? All in favor?